Hi, I'm Peter.
And I'm Paul.
Welcome to the Twin Perspective.
This is a great podcast that we've been looking forward to. Eventually, we're finally here. Just a quick introduction, however, that I used to practice as a nurse a few years back while Peter was an accountant.
When we were younger, I think I wanted to actually do this, but situation just made it not it didn't work out because I want to get into college real fast. And you become a nurse wait, you've been a nurse now for how long now?
About 15 years now.
15 years?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's been a while.
Well, so we just need to let you know what this podcast will be about so you could understand where we're coming from. We're trying to have a blend from the clinical side for healthcare professionals and different people to see how it also works for the business side. Because right now, but I'm still a nurse. Once a nurse, always a nurse.
Right.
Now I've moved into the business side on consulting and strategy for healthcare professionals, hospitals, in order to help them evolve. So my insight and Peter's insight is quite different sometimes, and we argue about that. So Peter has that need for the human factor. I still have the need for the human factor, but I'm looking at how do we also transfer this need into business. So on this podcast, this is kind of things you'll be listening to. We would invite different people with different backgrounds to come into this podcast. You hear from the clinical perspective and from the business perspective on how healthcare can actually be transformed.
Well, I think when you shared the idea with me, I really love it. And like you said, we do have we agree on a lot of things.
Yeah, but we disagree.
And we also disagree. So for me, I also, from the nursing perspective, I feel like a lot of nurses we're in this world that we feel like nursing is just about the hospital, about bedside. But I feel like there's more to it. I feel like you showed that there's more to nursing and not just the stereotypical way of you graduate from nursing school, you go work at the hospital. Mm-hmm. It's evolved. And I want other people out there to know, the ones that are burnt out, the ones that feel like, man, will I be at the hospital for so long? There's so many ways. If you did it, I feel like a lot of people could actually do that too.
Right. True. I think that me moving from the bedside as a nurse and moving into business was not also an easy journey, but I had lots of mentors that actually helped me to evolve that way. But one of the interesting things that I discussed with you so many times was that you schooled in the US for your nursing degree. Mm-hmm. I schooled in Nigeria for my nursing degree. And I remember while you were studying, we always have this back and forth when you learn something and I'm like, oh, we studied it in Nigeria. And you're like, are you sure? How did you study it?
Right.
And I kept feeling because you never saw me practice as a nurse clinically, mm-hmm. you didn't realize that I actually had more, well, I don't want to say more, but I knew what the nursing side of things were. And you have some disease conditions and we talk about it. And, it was interesting to see your perspective from the US side of it.
I feel like education is different in terms of where you're from, in terms of where you go to school. Mm-hmm. It's still a global education because a nurse in the US could practice in the UK or in Australia or anywhere else. Because at the end of the day, you still got to take the board exam and pass. However, I think is the approach. Let me say that. The approach is different. We're still in the same thing. And I felt like, well, maybe you didn't do as much as I did, or maybe the pressure wasn't as much. And, the grass is always green on the other side. So I didn't know what your shoes were. And speaking about the journey, how did you transition from a bedside nurse? What was that change in you that made you decide that, I want to do something different?
Yeah, that's been a question that I've been asked so many times. I think that what happened was during my journey as a nurse, I realized that we were not at the forefront of making decisions. And the analogy I normally use is being a pawn player as a nurse. And I wanted to be an officer in front to be able to make decisions for us. Lots of people now, the nursing era is changing. Now we have lots of nursing taking those leadership roles. But that's something I always wanted to do. I'm like, no, we need to be in those leadership. We need to be in those boardrooms. We need to be in those management meetings that they have, because I felt that you cannot make rules for the nurses when a nurse is not present in that boardroom where you're making decisions. So I wanted to be that nurse that would be in that boardroom to make a decision on how it's going to affect nurses.
So you're more or less a game changer.
Right.
See, I like that, but I feel like some of us still have to stay back in the hospital,
Of course,
and make some changes. Also, I want us to talk about the journey to where we are right now.
Yeah.
We both came from back home in Nigeria, and we've evolved to where we are right now. And for people watching also or listening, I want them to realize, because I feel like a lot of people do not talk about struggles in getting to attainment. I know my brother is not a vulnerable person.
What do you mean I'm not vulnerable?
You're not vulnerable. You really try to keep it all cool and collected. And I respect that. But I really want us to also share that journey, because I know that when you moved from Nigeria, actually, and you were in Chicago, you practiced also in Chicago.
Well, I wouldn't use the word practice. And I would say that I did some shadowing.
Okay.
In the hospital.
Okay.
Which was great, by the way. But I think a part of me also knew at the point that I wanted to do more than just being in the hospital setting. And I'm not saying this as more and better. I was saying it that we all, like you're saying, we all have a role to play.
Correct.
And we need to identify what roles we need to play, because at the end of it, the plan is for us to improve healthcare in whatever roles we're taking. So that's the journey. The vulnerable side you're talking about, I get that. I think of course, you know better than I do.
I do. And I know the struggle.
Was,
right.
Getting to where I am. And when people see me sometimes and they see the made up Paul.
Yeah.
But lots of things actually went into Paul being who he is today.
Yeah, and I feel like we all have that story we want to share about, how we got to where we are right now. I would say though that I'm really proud of you as a brother.
Likewise.
Yeah, I feel like we set up to get to where we are, and seeing that daily struggle of attainment is very rewarding. I'd like you to actually share more about your time in Dubai, because I know you're also in Dubai. So, and I know that you've been going from stages in this, I don't know if it's I don't want to say IT, AI, whatever. So what does that entail?
It's more digital transformation in healthcare.
Okay.
And I would say the background of healthcare, of being a nurse initially, actually really helped me. Okay. And this is where I feel there's a fusion between the clinical perspective and the digital health transformation. Okay, because again, you can't give what you don't have. How do you make a transformation if you don't understand what the foot soldiers are actually going through? So when I moved to Dubai, I was opportune to learn more about digital transformation. And each time, I used the word that it was like being in a lolly or candy shop. Because each time I see an application or something, the first thing that comes to my mind is, how can this be used in the hospital setting? Based on this condition, how can we, change this framework to suit this? So I wouldn't learn that or know that if my clinical background wasn't there for me. So it's been a great change for me, yeah.
I feel like my time as a nurse in the U.S., I love that adrenaline rush. And, you said it. My background was an accountant, you know, and I feel like my love for accounting was based in numbers. I felt like I loved numbers, and I felt because the family pressure was you have to be a nurse to be successful.
Well, what I say, you have to be a nurse to be successful. I think one of the things we went through as kids, I'm not sure. We've been asked when we were younger, what do you want to be? And any one of us would have said nursing. You know, coming from the Nigerian background, nursing was not something a male would come out to say, I want to be a nurse.
Not just the Nigerian background. And I still say till today, there's still that not stigma, but it's just not stereotype in terms of male in nursing. And I feel like that's something we should actually talk about one time.
Yeah.
About like, challenges you face as a male in nursing. I think I stood up a lot of times when I was in nursing school, especially when I worked in labor and delivery, and as a male nurse, you got to go into a lady's room and I felt like personally, this is my personal opinion right here. I felt like it wasn't about the person giving birth, the birthing mother. It wasn't about the person. It was more about the significant other, a partner that felt like, oh no, you're not going to come in here as a man, to look at my,
True.
So
True.
they had that defense on. So you're going to come in with a big smile and like your arms down. If you come in like this,
yeah,
they're going to like kick you out.
I don't know if you experienced this. I remember, going out as guys, and you go out and you're like in a very, maybe you went somewhere like a bar and you're all talking, manly. And everyone's like, oh, what do you do? What do you do? And someone comes, I work in, business. I work in this. I work in that. And it gets to you to introduce yourself, and you say, I'm a nurse.
They're like, yeah.
And at that time, the atmosphere changes a bit, and everyone looks at you like, oh, really? You're a nurse?
A male is a nurse?
Yeah, exactly. Did you experience that bit?
Well,
from your own perspective?
I did not experience that. I feel like living in the U.S. As a nurse, you're seen as a hero.
Okay.
I feel like if I go out and they ask you, what do you do? And you say you're a nurse, they see money, which I feel like that's a myth, because I feel like I don't know where that money is. I feel like Instagram has made nurses in the U.S. look like they're making a lot of money. Well, compared to the UK, I think we're doing better.
Compared to Nigeria also.
Yes. But I know that the whole point of us doing this is to show that side of healthcare and also the side of leadership.
Yeah.
I want to go also in leadership. I feel like, I'm getting to a point where I'm like, you know what? I've worked hard at the bedside, and that's what's enhancing me back in school right now, pursuing my doctorate degree in nursing practice. Yeah. So, not trying to be like you.
We do
look alike already.
That's a good
but
thing for you. What do you mean?
I'm not trying. When I say not trying, because I feel like you. I still want to be in the hospital setting.
Yeah,
I enjoy that hospital setting,
which I do respect. Though.
Yeah, I really do enjoy it. But I feel like even within the hospital, changes could be made as a leader.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I had a discussion recently with a very good friend of mine, and we were talking about policies and changes, and it said that you can do an external policy if the internal policy hasn't been refined in the right way. And I would take that to the hospital. Okay, if we don't have people like you, making those changes internally, it's difficult for us to make a transformation from outside to change that policy. So I think it's something that merges. So and that's where I see our lives coming together right now. You coming from that perspective and me coming from that perspective, and seeing how we can, showcase both worlds to people for them to see how this works.
It's amazing. I was telling a patient of mine one day, and I said, hey, I got a twin brother. And she was like, oh, wow, you do? I said, yes, I do have a twin brother. I'm like, what does he do? I'm like, he's a nurse. And she was like, no, you're lying. Because a lot of people don't feel like, and you know what? I think I totally agree with that. They feel like, twins, we could look alike, but we still have different views and different, lifestyles and stuff like that. And I think that's about us. Even though we're both nurses, I think our nursing journey is not in the same direction.
Right.
I feel, but the good thing about it is that our nursing journey now is colliding.
Exactly.
Because we're bringing your knowledge and my bedside or nursing experience now together, and we're going to make magic with this.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that this actually transcends along, within different professions in the healthcare industry, for nurses, for other healthcare professionals who also have left the healthcare setting, the hospital setting, and they've moved into more leadership roles or transformative roles. I think this also transcends with what they do, and it's something that we can actually, bring someone like that also on this podcast to discuss. About
Yeah, I
what they
think
do.
it would be nice to have, like, where is healthcare going, like, in the next 5 years right now?
I don't know. I don't know, but I see that line, and I see that things are actually improving in healthcare. I feel that, especially now with the digital transformation that we currently have, combined with the clinical setting research and all that is going on, talking about AI that you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of change, okay? And I would say, I spoke to you about this yesterday, and, when we're talking about, you were saying something about patient first, and I was joking with you. I said that, when you said patient first, I said profit.
Profit first?
I said
Yeah.
profit first, and we both laughed at it, but we finally agreed that, it's not about, it's about the patient, but also from the hospital stakeholder side, they also look at the profit side. So merging that side of it, because again, healthcare professionals are now going into business. They're now being entrepreneurial.
Okay, so you're saying now that in as much as we're trying to make the patients first, but the bottom line must not suffer for it.
True, because I feel that we have stakeholders, investors that have put in money into the hospital. There are lots of equipments going into the hospital. There are lots of processes that needs to be. People are being paid for to take care of the patient. So again, the healthcare, in as much as we're taking care of patient, is also. I don't want no one should hold me responsible for it, but it's the truth. It's also seen as revenue making
Correct.
entity now. Yeah.
So I think one thing that I feel like people should also realize about the growth is you just didn't have a nursing degree and paused to go into leadership.
Yeah. True.
So, like, there were steps you took
Absolutely.
in attaining
Absolutely.
this.
Yeah.
Would you like to share some steps you took?
Well, first, I think knowledge is power. One of the first things is
Correct.
you need to go back to study, and I would share a little bit of experience that I had. I think I knew what leadership was in my own little understanding. I knew what business was in my own little understanding, and I thought that I could actually move with that without actually going to study. And one day, with my noise making and things like that, I got an opportunity to talk to someone who was actually really into the business side of healthcare. And that's when I realized I knew nothing. It was an opportunity, but I missed it because I could not be at par at the level of what they wanted. So I had to go do my MBA, also to learn more about the business side of it and how to merge that healthcare side and business together. So I did that, and I also went into doing digital transformation courses, also in AI, which I really love, by the way. So I did a lot of training, spoke to a lot of mentors, spoke to a lot of people to be where I am today. So like you said, it wasn't just something that I woke up and, I just said, I want to be this.
Listen, it's so funny you said that because I know that a lot of people want to do a lot of things. Like,
Right.
we all want to be great, but sometimes the hard work behind it is what's really, like, a lot. And when I tell people, like, people that see me now, in the US, oh, you're a nurse. But I'm like, you don't know the journey.
Right.
But
you just mentioned, okay, now I'm going to throw the question back to you.
Yeah.
Because I know you're a nurse. But again, if I look at it, you didn't just study nursing. You went beyond just having the basic, nursing. So you also share your story and how you've also been able
I feel
to
like I've been in school forever now. That's how I feel. I really feel like I've been in school forever. I think I always wanted to go back to school when I moved to the US. I wanted to go back to school so bad, but situations were not allowing that. People feel like, just go back to school. Schools are expensive, and I know that I started with, I worked as a what am I call this thing in the restaurant? As a waiter at the restaurant.
Yeah.
I waited tables, and I'm like, you know what? I know where I'm going. I knew what my goal was, what the vision was. And at the end of the day, when the opportunity came up for nursing school, I said, let me try it. But I realized that with my first degree, I thought, because, you know, they tell you that, oh, once you already have a degree, you could just go into nursing. I don't think it could enhance you going into nursing, but I had to go back to go get an associate degree in health sciences.
Yeah.
And that helped me get my science because I did, you know, something totally different from science. Then I'm proud to say I went to one of the best schools in the United States, you know, and I got a master's in nursing. And that gave me that confidence to say, you know what, I could do this. And currently, like I said earlier, I'm also pursuing my doctorate in nursing practice so that I could be a provider. So not leadership, but also leadership in terms
leadership.
of yeah,
it's leadership. It's
but,
leadership.
yeah.
It's great to see that, you know, you've gone beyond. I don't have a master's in nursing, and you know, it's just great that I started, you know, the journey in the family, you know, as a nurse.
Please. Why are you starting the journey in the family?
Journey,
No.
Yeah,
no.
Well,
so
I did start the journey.
in our immediate family.
Yes, in
but
the immediate family.
Our family
Oh, yeah, we have lots of nurses.
Oh, my
Yeah.
God. Tons of nurses.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
But I started this, and the point I'm trying to make is that you just didn't do nursing. You know, you've taken that step even beyond where I saw myself as, you know, a nurse to do. You did the master's in nursing. Now you know, currently doing your doctorate, you know, in nursing practice. And, you know, seeing that is like, oh, wow, this guy, you're not stopping. And I'm like, well, yeah.
Well, you know, not to bust your bubbles or anything or make you feel like low key, you know, I'm inspired. I said that. I know maybe I don't say a lot to say that, you know, you inspired me, but
Well, thank God this is a podcast, so I could just, you know,
you
keep
play
this
you
recording.
play it over and over again. But in honest truth is it's just seeing that, you know, I tell people like, oh, they say, are you trying to be like your twin brother like this is a nurse? I say, you know what? I'm not trying to be like him. He inspires me in some things, but we still have different perspective of what we want our journeys to look like. You know, I love nursing. I don't want to say I love nursing. I think I just love the act of taking care of people.
Absolutely.
You know, working in the ER, the best time of my day, it could be like a rough day, but when I see someone come in like with so much pain, almost dying, and at the end of the day, I can see them smile and they're alive. It makes me happy. I feel fulfilled. I feel like it's a fulfilling job for me to say, you know what? I could be a part of the angels, I'm going to put it that way, to help in making this lady alive or making her, you know.
I hear you.
Yeah, like.
I hear you.
It's like touched by an angel. Like, you know, like, and this is something, not trying to go all like, you know, churchy or anything right here. I usually tell myself, like, you know, when I'm going to work, like, you know what, Lord, bless my hands, you know, and whatever I touch, let him get healing. Because I feel like it's a way of you're ministering in a different way, but through healthcare or through nursing. People want to know you care.
Absolutely.
You know, and I do care for my patients a lot.
Yeah, I do care for the patient. Also,
Yeah,
I care for,
and you care for your bottom line too. You care for the revenue.
and I care for the businesses too. You can put it this way because also, you know, I see lots of people want to change the healthcare and they go into, you know, that transformation side, trying to build something, you know, innovate, you know, do this to help the healthcare industry, and you see them struggle to actually get that out. You know, and they've invested a lot of money for them to say, you know, we're doing this. Now, I bleed for them too because I feel like, okay, can I help them, you know, change that mindset they have to evolve and get the ROI of what they've actually invested in and how to scale this up, you know, how to ensure that what they're actually building meets the requirements of what the hospital needs. Because it's not about just innovating something. It's about innovating something that you're fulfilling a need, not just, you know, going behind to say,
Correct.
I'm an innovator. Okay.
So I could say this now that on this podcast, we're going to be inviting people. We're going to keep it real 100%.
Right.
and say it the way it really is.
As long as you keep telling me that I inspire you.
No, you do
I'm
not.
fine.
And I said it once, and I'm not saying it again. That's going to be the first and last time on this podcast, okay? However, I want people to say, like, what are they really looking forward to?
Right.
You know, we're going to have a lot of people come in here, you know, healthcare workers, professionals, people with business ideas like yours. And from my perspective also, I want to also let us introduce some new nurses, some people just trying to get into this to see how they could actually make this work. And we're going to just keep it real.
All right.
Both the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well, we don't have ugly here.
We do have, well, not in terms like, healthcare is not just a journey.
It can be nasty sometimes.
Correct.
You know,
and attaining a position or attaining leadership, you go through a lot.
That's true. Well, so what we're going to just advise is, this is what we're launching, and we want people to come into this and, go on our journey with us, individual journey, different perspectives that we have, and see how it can also inspire other people out there that they have similar things or want to aspire to actually get into something we're actually doing. Mm-hmm. So this would be a great podcast for everyone to listen to. So yeah, we're happy to start this and, see how it goes.
Yeah. And I think this is the first time we're actually doing something together.
Yeah.